Hi, welcome back. We're going to be substituting whatever program it is, 10:34 p.m. Eastern Standard Time with Seminars on Sadness with Liz Bunny. You've just watched me talking in a quiet voice so that I didn't let you know what's going on, but then I decided it was time to cue you in. We've got cables, we've got the computer, and we're only like, I don't know, 30 feet away from the seminar on sadness. So it's good to see all you guys out there. Let me just finish this cigarette and let me go. Here's how we go. Let's just check in on Nathan really fast. He's right there. Gotcha. There he is.
Hi, man.
How's your day?
It's good.
Good.
It's been a good day.
Good.
Never say it ain't funny.
You haven't?
No.
You should have seen our fireworks last night.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Hi.
Yeah.
You going to watch a movie at Sissy's?
Yeah. Did you not eat your veggies? Wait, hold on one second.
Not done with them.
Just hold on. All right. I didn't pump up to the numbers that we said, but I'm just going to do this because I told everybody I would. Man, this cereal is so good. Mm.
Cereal?
Yeah, you know.
You thought it was a bowl of cereal?
I thought it was cereal, yeah.
A man mentioned a bowl of cereal?
It's nothing more bachelor than that. Okay, charging.
You driving over there?
No.
I can get something out of your car.
All right. Did she eat her manwich? She ate her manwich.
Who's that? Nathan?
Well, it's Hippie Fiasco.
That was my first
Manwich?
or
Well,
sloppy Joe ever.
what do you mean? You've never been part of a man sandwich before?
No.
I've got pictures on my phone.
You have pictures on your
Just let me go, and here it is, Sadness Seminar with Liz Bunny.
You're not allowed to laugh.
I didn't laugh.
I know, I'm not allowed to laugh.
Oh God, it's so funny, sadness. Have fun.
I had to get something out of Chad's car.
Way to be prepared for your show.
Well, I was asleep,
You were asleep?
and I didn't know what time you're leaving. I guess I should have assumed after sandwiches. I'm gonna let you guys watch Gypsy for a minute. She's taking a bath. Oh, Gypsy, do you know you're on camera? Love that about you. Love that about you. Love that about you. Hi guys. I'm gonna try to figure out how to get other windows up on here and get rid of these windows that I don't want. Like you can go down there, and you can go down there, and let's get another window up. Hold on. You want to watch the cat? Gypsy, look, everybody's watching you. Why can't Safari open the page? Oh, it's something completely different. Ethan made sandwiches and vegetables tonight for dinner, and that was the first time I've ever had a manwich. My cat is a girl. Her name is Gypsy. She's really great. She's really amazing. She travels with us. And I have never met anyone like her. She likes me a lot. She comes home, likes to hang out with me. Can always rely on her. That's for sure. Yeah. I always say that she adopted me. I've been threatening all day that I was going to steal a webcast and give Chad and Nathan a break, because Chad's always on here trying to, Chad's always on here being funny, and Nathan is always on playing songs for everyone, and sometimes, we just can't be on. And that's the way it is in life. You just can't always be on, and it's really tiring to try to always be on. I'm not talking like about the stream, because the stream is always on. Um, but I'm talking more along the lines of just always being funny and always having a song to sing, or even feeling like you have to sing even when you have no voice, feeling like you have to have a joke even when you don't feel very funny. Um, so I kind of decided last night when I was trying to go to sleep, I was pretty exhausted, and I wound up being up for till about 7 a.m. Just trying to go to sleep. Yeah, and I couldn't get out of my own head. Um, and I was homesick. I'm homesick. I don't really. It's funny for me to say because I don't really know what I would consider home. I think that you know, my family lives in New Jersey. My mom and my stepdad and my brothers all live in New Jersey, but I was never really felt at home there. Even the house that they still live in, it always kind of didn't feel like home. It felt, you know, it felt like my parents' house. It never really felt like a home that I had or that I could go to. Um, um, yeah, of course it does. Seeing Nathan's home and his family and his friends and his community, that's what makes me feel at home for sure. Or not at home. Makes me think of my home. It just makes me think of a lot about like what home is to people in a lot of different ways, and where you um, where where you find a home, and so yeah, I was thinking of my parents' house and growing up there, and what's kind of strange for me is that um, well, I moved around a lot when I was younger, and had many different places that I remember as each of them being my home or a home. Um, but I have a really kind of a crazy memory. So I can remember. I can remember. Sorry, I talk soft. Um, I can remember like being in my crib um, when I was like 2. I just turned up the audio, but I can remember being in my crib when I was like 2, and I remember like my mother coming in. I can remember what she was wearing. I can remember living in the trailer behind my dad's restaurant with my mom and my dad. Um, I can remember the house in New Hampshire that had no electricity and no running water. We used an outhouse and read by candlelight. I can remember the houses in Florida. I remember it all, and this is all before I turned, I would say 7. So I have a huge, I have a lot of places that I lived in, and in their own way, they make up what is home. Also, the back of a car. There's a lot of we did a lot of moving from home to home, so I remember being in the back of a car a lot, and I think that's kind of what gives me my ability to go on long road trips and find some form of a home in there. But I don't really know where I'm going with this. So yeah, being here kind of seeing it kind of got me scared thinking about going back to New Jersey and and uh, wondering if the people that I love in New Jersey would rally around what we're doing as much as Nathan's community. People in Nathan's community how they have just really been awesome, and supportive of what he's doing. So I kind of got a little afraid of what it would be like when I go back to New Jersey. And yeah, I like I was saying, I never felt home at my parents' house, and I never really felt home in New Jersey. I was always kind of trying to, not trying to, but I always just stared at my shoes a lot. It's probably where I like to take pictures of shoes, people's shoes, but and I didn't have. I made a lot of friends. I made a lot of friends like out of high school, but I have um, just I have a lot of not too awesome memories from New Jersey. Um, Scary ones. Nathan's community is very special, and not that it's not that I'm comparing it to others. I'm just thinking about what I know, and I had like out of high school. When I got out of high school, I wound up meeting through my I still call her my best girlfriend, even though she doesn't even talk to me anymore. She's pretty much my only girlfriend in New Jersey, and I don't really know what why we don't talk anymore, but we just don't. And she when I turned 21, I'd gotten out of a long relationship with a man who I was with for 5 years, and I lived with him for three of those years, and she kind of like took me out on the town, and really she introduced me to a lot of people that I would have never have. I was afraid to go out. I just turned 21, and I didn't want to have anything to do with seeing anyone or getting involved in a kind of community. But she got me out somehow, and introduced me to. I met my friend Steve, and I met my friend Chris McIntyre, Chris McIntyre and Steve McNamara, and that kind of snowballed into this whole meeting this whole community of writers, and poets, musicians, who really helped me. Just I don't know. I guess they just really gave me the strength to do something that I didn't think that anyone would want to pay attention to. I kind of I'd been a little bit of a writer um, before I met these people, but I kind of just did it for myself. I didn't think that anybody else would want um, to read it. It was never really what I wrote. It was never really a thought of mine to even like really share what I was writing. And I kind of started writing. Kind of started writing. Um, I started writing to fill this gap that had once been occupied by painting. I painted a lot. I used to paint a lot, and I think that what I wanted to talk about last night, what I was thinking of talking about today, last night, is, Nathan always says that he talks about his songs and a lot of what he writes coming from this place of sadness in him, and how sad songs make him happy, and how sadness and thing they just it's kind of it's an art. And so what I was saying is that the painting, I used to paint a lot, and my own personal sadness has always changed forms. My outlet for it, like painting, I started out, I guess, painting, and then writing. Had like It's funny too, because it's always like a sad thing that kind of makes me transition from one medium to the next. Um, and and yeah, sorry, the chat is kind of I'm not gonna even look at it right now. So if I'm not really chatting with you for a moment, it's because it's kind of distracting. I'm just gonna chat at you. But what I was saying was that yeah, it's always been a sad experience that has like switched my forms of my mediums, expressing another sadness. Um, so I used to paint, and I'd spend a lot of time alone in my room just painting, and I painted furniture a lot. And I had painted like the back of my door to my room, and it took me a really long time, and I put a lot of myself into that. It was one of the first things that I really had went for it, and it was a large canvas, it's the whole entire back of my door, um, and it was beautiful, and I was really, really proud of it. And I got, my parents gave me permission to paint my door. Obviously, they were gonna replace all the doors in the house anyway. Um, and so I painted this door, and I painted a lot of things. And that door, when I moved out of my parents' house, I took that door with me. And I took it with me to the house that I moved to after that, and then I took it to another house after that. So I traveled with this door, and I moved it from house to house. And after I moved back. Well, I stayed at my parents' house when I had broken up with my boyfriend, the one that I was with for a really long time. I went and stayed back with my parents, and for a couple months. And in that time period, my stepfather had thrown out the door. I brought it back to the house, and it was in the garage. And one day, I came home and it was gone. And he said he had thrown it out. And that's when I stopped. I stopped painting and I started writing. And I love my stepdad. I love my mom. I love my stepdad. And he didn't really understand what to him it was just a door, and it was in his way. It was in his garage, and it was in his way. But to me, that was like, it was healing. It was something that had healed me. Something that I did, and that was really beautiful. And whether or not he could see it, somebody hopefully scored a sweet door off the side of the road from it. Yeah, so that's when I started writing. So back to what I was saying about this group of writers in New Jersey that I met. We call ourselves Walking English, and they called themselves Walking English, and they invited me to join their writing team or whatever. It's not, I guess you could say it's a team, so you can get a bunch of creative poets together and call them a team. I guess we were a team. A super dysfunctional team where not every day everyone would show up, and or they'd show up drunk, or they'd call you up and tell you that they need bail money or something, But we started, they started Walking English, and you can visit it, walkingenglish.com. But I guess I'm gonna read to you guys from here, and a little bit, because I know that I mean, a lot of what I write, it's not like it's not all sad. It's very hopeful and beautiful. and but some things come from a very sad place, and all of this writing was never really for anyone but myself. Um, there are a lot of I've written stuff for people, but I write because I I started writing because I had to, um, because I had to, because um, that's how I dealt with things that made me sad or angry or whatever. Um, in my family, we kind of were. It's not like we were raised to bottle things up. Um, and this is very interesting because I was just speaking to my mother on the phone the other day. Um, and like I said, I love my mother and I love my family. But this is a perfect example of what I'm talking about. A friend of the family's that we've known for years and years. I used to babysit their kids when they were really little. Um, now now the one girl is a senior in high school, and the other one's a sophomore or a junior, sophomore in high school. I used to babysit them when they were like 5 and 7, and sweet kids, great friends of my family's. But my mother's friend, tried to hang herself, and I was talking to my mother about what it takes to what it is that makes a person like just have that be their final decision, and or just be the decision that they make. Um, and and I tried to explain it to my mom. It was funny because I said to my mom, Mom, sometimes people have so much shit going on and they never address it that one day they just snap and it's like blacking out and they can't and they're like really not in charge, you know, because the way that this happened was, you know, she was in the house with her family and she literally just like walked into another room and um, and tried to hang herself, and her husband ran in there and found her and cut her down in time, so she survived. But um, and I tried to explain to my mother that, like, well, there are so many things that could be going on inside of her head and inside of her heart that you wouldn't even know about because she wouldn't share it, or or that she wouldn't share, and she wouldn't even address herself, and that she could just, you know, snap like that, and and do that. Um, you know, and my mom said, "Well, you know what?" She said, "Yeah, I can see that." She's like, "But yeah, she's got a lot going on with her family and her life, of course." But she's like, "But we all have a lot going on, and everybody's got shit that they've got to deal with all the time. Nobody's life is perfect, and that's kind of what I'm talking about with my parents, and how how I was raised. And it's kind of like, well, you know what? You're not the only person, that's got shit going on. You're not the only person that has stuff they got to deal with. Um, and you're not the only person who's fucked up or whatever. And that to me kind of gave so yeah, so it was always like, that's, you're not the only person. Get on and get over it. And yet that's great and all, but there's this whole process to getting over things, quote unquote, getting over things. There's it's not as easy as just, well, you know what, fuck, that sucked, let's move on. Sometimes it's a lot harder, and not everyone's the same, so they deal with things in their own way. But I kind of was always, I felt like that kind of gave me this feeling of not being able to feel. Like I wasn't allowed to present my problems and address them. I kind of always felt like I wasn't allowed to be sad, because I would get sad, and my parents would be like, what? Why are you so sad? You have a roof over your head. You have food. You're. What do you have to be sad about? And it wasn't even like I had. I was very fortunate growing up. That doesn't mean that I'm not allowed to be sad every once in a while. So, yeah, I was kind of raised with this feeling of bottling things and not addressing them, and just getting on with your day and getting over it. And that may work for some people, but it never worked for me. And I would wind up like being fine and being fine, quote unquote fine, and then getting more and more further and further away, and more quiet, and then it would just like I would just snap. And one of those times when I snapped, I ran away from home when I was 15, and I ran away, and I went to a friend's house, and I didn't come home, and I wrote my mom a letter, and I said that I was gonna go live with my dad, and I did that because nobody was listening to me. It wasn't that I was trying to escape from something. I had been trying to say something for a really long time, and I wasn't being heard. Nobody was hearing me, and I got their attention, I guess. I was 14. It wasn't really the I don't know. I wouldn't do it again, and I feel bad. I put my mom through a lot of sadness too, but I had been trying to say something for a very long time, and that was how I got heard finally. And it goes along with what I was saying about how everybody was raised, or we were raised to not have problems and to just get on with it, instead of addressing that. there was a sadness or that there was a problem, um, we would always just shove things under the table. Um, and that's what kind of led me to out the door. It's like if they're not gonna listen one way or another, I'm gonna start screaming and kicking. So they listened after that. My parents listened after that, and it was really, it's kind of funny. It's not really funny, but it is interesting because when I came home after I ran away, I didn't talk for like 2 or 3 weeks. I didn't say anything, and I think that was I think that was I was still angry because it took them that long to want to listen to me, and that's what it took for them to listen to me, and actually like hear what I was saying. Um, so I think I was angry. So it was, and and I was sad, and I didn't want to talk. It got to the point where I didn't want to talk. Um, I was tired, and I needed to not talk. And it was kind of crazy because my my mom took me. My mom and my stepdad, they were trying to figure out, what to do, um, and how to this is funny, quote unquote, save me. um, and they took me to see a priest, which is it still kind of blows my mind because we weren't brought up with any form of religion whatsoever. Um, we have gone to church like twice in my life. Uh, Once on Easter and once on Christmas. And yeah, they took me to see this priest, and I just remember it being one of the most ridiculous experiences of my life. I sat there, and there's this little room with this priest, and he just kind of looked at me and started talking. And we're in New Jersey, and he's kind of he's Catholic or something, and like Italian. They just started talking and going on and on, and everyone thought that I was really, really angry. Yeah, they all thought that I was really angry, and they thought that, which wasn't the case at all. And he kept, hinting at, well, being judged, and how do you think people see you, and how do you think people see him, and they talked about walking around town with funny clothing on. And it's just a very interesting experience. Really, at the end of it all, nothing that he was saying had any real relevance to what was actually going on. I think that they were just trying to save me in some way. I don't even know what that means. But yeah, so um, I don't want to work out. I just want to bang on my drum all day. Exactly. I just want to webcast my life 24/7 all day. I don't want to work. Uh, um, yeah, so actually they took me to see this priest, so it was just kind of a little bit of a kook. I wasn't talking. That was the thing. They were trying to get me to talk or something, and my parents thought, well, if I wouldn't talk to them, maybe I'd talk to somebody else, and this this priest would be the person that I would talk to, this man that I'd never met before in my life, and that, I really have, he can't sit, it's not that he can't preach, his religion to me, but, um, I'll listen. I love religion. I love, everything, I love everything about it. I love learning about it. I love what it, um, just seeing how it's changed over the years. So it's not that I don't have respect for religion. I just didn't see how this, them taking me to a priest had anything to do with what I was trying to tell them, or had been trying to tell them. I think it was just a way of them trying to fix a mistake or something. It was them being at a loss for what was going on too. So after that, we went to see a family therapist, and this is also very interesting for me, because I've kind of been on the verge of tears all the past couple of days, and it's just because sometimes I cry, but it's not really specific towards anything. Oh, but if I cry, don't worry, I'm fine. Um, so we went to see this family therapist, and this was really funny. I remember the way that the room smelled, and I remember the stairs that we walked up to get to the place, and how far away it was. It's going to see the therapist. It's like 3 hours away from where we lived, and it was just so wild, just sitting in the car with my parents, and to go in silence, like to go to this therapist to talk it out, to figure it out. But we went there, and it always smelled like too clean and weird in the office, and they always had freaking elevator music playing in the office, like something smooth and calming, and really it was kind of maddening in itself. And and yeah, so um, I wasn't, I wasn't, I still wasn't talking when I went to see this family therapist. And I went to see him a couple times um, before I decided that I was going to talk again. And he, first couple of times, he never really asked me to talk. He just asked a lot of questions, and had me shake my head yes or no. And some days I didn't feel like talking at all. So my talking at all, and I mean shaking my head yes or no. So we just talked to my mom and my stepdad, um, and and then um, and then one day he said something that made me laugh, um, and I thought that was smart. And the thing that he said that made me laugh wasn't wasn't it wasn't even funny. It made me laugh because what he said was kind of stupid, and I couldn't believe it. I can't really remember what he said exactly, but I remember just being like, really, is that what's going on here? And I just kind of like laughed out loud. Um, um, but yeah, so I think I started talking to him a little bit, and we never really talked about anything. we talked about like, oh, what I did in school and what I'd like to do, and more along the lines of like what kind of a person I was. And then one day I went there and he gave me this test, and it's this. I don't know if anybody's ever like gone to child like therapy at all or anything, but they still they give you these big long tests. They're they're huge. They've got like 100 questions in them or something, and they're all like yes or no. It's like sometimes, maybe, all the time, like, and they're all these like it's like multiple choice, and you have to fill in the circle. Um, Whether or not you feel, sad sometimes, maybe a little bit, all of the time, every day of my life, um, you have to fill in the circle next to. You're supposed to be honest. Um, and they had like strange questions in there, like um, I've been on a plane more than you know um, 200 times in the past year, and just like really, really strange questions that didn't seem to fit into the other lines of questioning at all. Um, and I guess that they know what they're doing. I kind of don't trust doctors, a lot of them anyway. Um, um, but as I'm reading this test and I'm like looking down at all these questions that they're having me answer and I'm answering them, um, I I decide that I'm gonna fill out. I'm answering them all very honestly, and decided that I read this one question and it says, "Do you consider yourself to be a dramatic person?" And I thought about that question. I stopped at the question. I thought about it for a minute, um, and I decided that I was going to. Most of the questions that I had been answering had been um, very like uh, just right down the middle. Like sometimes I get sad. Sometimes I get angry. But this question was the one that I decided that I was going to fill out uh, more. So I filled it out, and I said that I'm dramatic. I consider myself to be a very dramatic person, um, and I don't know what the answer what it was, but I filled the circle out for that one, and I thought about that for a minute. And the reason that I decided to answer that question that way was because I um, I did a lot of drama in high school. I did acting and drama and stage design, set design, and lighting and sound for all my high school plays, stage managing and whatnot. And so the question, do you consider yourself to be a dramatic person? I kind of answered that one of as a joke, the way I did it. So, and it was funny when we got the test results back like a week later. He's like, "Okay, so your test results came in from this long, ridiculous psychological breakdown of your entire life. We did this all on a test. It'll tell you exactly what's wrong with you and whether or not you're, you know, clinically depressed, or whether or not you're schizophrenic, or whether or not you're a compulsive liar, like all these things that you think that I'm pretty nuts, Hunter." And anyway, so I filled this question out the way I did, and he sat me down and he was like, "Well, your test results came back, Elizabeth, and it seems that you can be a very dramatic person, and your test shows that you have a tendency to be over dramatic." And and I think that that's about the point in time when I was done with this doctor. Um, and I decided that I wasn't going to really pay attention anymore. Is that that I just thought that test was ridiculous. I thought that out of everything that I had been saying, and that's what they got out of that test. That one question out of hundreds that I um, answered the way that I answered it. Good golly, and I just thought it was ridiculous, and I thought that the whole entire thing was ridiculous. Um, and I didn't necessarily really like the doctor either. But I think that after after I took that test and after he said that, I think I started really talking to him and telling him, well, you know what, this is kind of bullshit because this is why I answered that question that way, and your test is like what else? Like what else does your test have to say to me? Like I stopped thinking about the test and kind of just told him exactly what was going on with my family, and exactly what was going on. And I'm like, exactly what's going on right here is that my mom and my dad, not my stepfather, my father, my mom and my dad have a bunch of shit in their lives that they haven't resolved. My mom has a bunch of hangups about my dad, and my dad has a bunch of hangups about my mom. And they sit there and they put my little brother and I in between the two of them. And I'm really tired of listening to my mother tell me that my father's a drunk and all these bad things about my dad, and I'm really tired of having my dad tell me that my mother's crazy all the time. You know what? Yeah, you are. My mom is kind of crazy, and my dad is drunk. So they're both what to say the other one is. But you know what? I am 14 years old, and I don't need to adopt my. I need to be a kid. I don't need to sit there and be away from my parents to get back at each other. So I think I wound up telling the doctor that, and I told him that I wasn't going to that I didn't have anything else to say, and then that was it. That I'm 15, 14 years old, and I shouldn't have to deal with these things. I should be able to be a kid. And after that, I didn't have to go back anymore. Because he said to me that he didn't want to see me anymore. He said that he wanted to see my parents, and he didn't want to see me anymore because I wasn't the problem, and that there wasn't anything wrong with me. Fuck it, yeah, I'm supposed to be dramatic. My kid. So um, so so my parents went to the psychiatrist for a little while longer, and I didn't go anymore. I didn't have to. Every once in a while, I'd go with them, and just in case he wanted to talk to me, sometimes they'd bring me along, and I'd fall asleep in the waiting room to the elevator music, which is fun, I guess. But but that was that. I went to see another therapist after that. I don't really remember that too well, but right now I could, but basically said the same thing, that they didn't really need to see me back, because there wasn't anything wrong with me. That they all, I guess they noticed that I wasn't. I don't know why they didn't want to see me back. I guess because I told them how it was, and I wasn't the problem. So I don't know what got me on that whole rant, but just talking about how we were kind of the way we were raised, to not address things. Yeah, so I started this. I started writing, and that's what I was doing. I was signing in. I would like to read the first poem that I ever wrote. Hold on, let me just sign in here. Oh shit. What's my password, guys? Oh yeah. Yeah, like I was saying, a lot of shit. No, just go. I don't know what this is. Wonderful. Save and continue. Okay. Yeah. So, it's okay to be sad. It's okay to not always be funny. It's okay to not always be able to sing. It's okay to not always have something to say. It's okay to be a mess sometimes. You don't always have to be on. Some of my most beautiful moments have been when I have felt so incredibly lost and out of my skin, or too in my own skin. And some moments have just come to me, and I have felt like everything at once. And like those moments have been the most clarifying moments, I think, of my life. I spent, I'll tell you another little story. I spent High Sierra, not last year, but the year before. I spent Saturday night crying my eyes out in my tent. And this after, the not too long before that, I had broken up with the guy that I was dating, and it was a really ugly breakup. And being at High Sierra was kind of intense for me that year, because the year before we had such an amazing, beautiful time together, and just like very specific moments, and a lot of magic. And the next year it was just a High Sierra. It was just kind of a reminder of of that sadness and all those good things, all those beautiful magic moments, and the whole roller coaster that was our relationship. And I had done my thing where I kind of just, I just deal. And then I can't deal anymore. So I start breaking. I cry. But I wound up in my tent Saturday night at High Sierra. And the thing that set me off too didn't even have anything to do with the person I was breaking up with, or that I had broken up with. It had to do with we were actually at Camp Harry, and we're watching Big Light play, and Scott Samuelson Captain Sammy had started telling me this story about Fred, and how it was just so amazing to see Fred and Big Light playing at Camp Harry, because Fred used to be just a friend of the Slips who would sleep under the RV and in the luggage carrier underneath the RV, years and years and years before that. So I just thought that was one of the most amazing stories ever. I thought that it was so beautiful, and I was so proud of Fred, and that's what kind of made me snap, was that I was just so proud of Fred. I just started crying, and I know how hard he's worked, and how much of his life, and how it's not been easy for him, how much he's put into his art. That's why I was so proud. Yeah, so I started crying, and I couldn't stop. So I went to my tent, and I cried in my tent for hours. And I cried about everything. I cried about how I miss my cat, and I cried about how I miss my mom, and I cried about my brother, and how he struggles with not being able to walk, and I cried about how beautiful Paul Simon's lyrics are, and I cried about my dad and his brother, and I cried about my boyfriend, and I cried about everything. Cried about how funny Chad Galactic is. I'm sitting there by myself, bawling in my tent, just crying my eyes out about how funny Chad Galactic is. And yeah, so I woke up that morning, or I didn't wake up because I never went to sleep, but I rolled out of my tent that morning and went to kickball, and looked around. Robert Levy came and got me. Robert Levy came and got me and made me go to kickball because I did not want to leave my tent, and I went to kickball and looked around and looked at everyone and said to myself, wow, I've got it together. I'm doing pretty good. Because the scene that I had walked on was pretty debaucherous, and everyone was that looks like everyone's seams had unraveled all over the place. And I thought that I had been the only one unraveling, but I wasn't. I don't know what got me on about that either, but we're just rambling all over the place. I want to read to you. I'm gonna read to you. Hey, if anyone has any suggestions on, like, maybe if you want me to read something of like one of your favorite poets, what we're gonna do now is I'm gonna read some of the things that I've written over the years, and I'm gonna read you some of my friends' posts, my friends' poems, and if you have something that you'd like me to read that's of yours, feel free to share. Or if you want me to read a specific favorite poet of yours, anything, whatever, go for it. But I'm going to which year, High Sierra, not last year. It was the year the Disco Biscuits played late night. It was, I've only been 4 years. This year would be my 5th, so it wasn't last year, it was the year before. Yeah, the year before. Sorry, I'm trying to navigate Blogger. It can be kind of tedious sometimes. Edit post. Duncan, you missed it. I already flashed everyone, and I only do it once an hour on the hour. So you'll have to stay tuned. Nope, it's not how it works. You don't just get to say something and have me do it. Sometimes there's a way that things are done. Okay. I don't just flash brilliance, I am brilliance. Some things you just can't turn off, okay? Okay. So I wrote this poem in high school. You know, I think that what got me thinking about all this kind of stuff was that sometimes people sometimes people don't really get me You know, one day you could see me and I will be bouncing off the walls. I will be talking to everyone. I'll be shining. I'll be brighter than bright, and and then I mean, the next time you see me, I could just want to hide in the corner and not say anything, and not have anything to say, and be really shy. I'm kind of a shy person in general, um, but so you know, it's all very touch and go sometimes. Sometimes I won't want to leave the house for weeks, and right about now it's pretty much weeks. But I used to not want to leave like for months straight. But yeah, so sometimes I feel that people, and it's not that even that I feel this way. I've actually had people tell me, which really doesn't matter because it's not the truth, but I mean it kind of matters to me a little bit, or else I wouldn't be talking about it. But that I can seem like I'm a bitch, or that I'm pretentious in a way, something. But that's not. I don't really. I mean, I can be a bitch, um, but I'm more shy than anything else. Hi, Billy. Talking about being sad. Uh, oh, it's okay to be sad. Um, so anyway, I wrote this poem in high school, and it's the first thing that I've really ever written. And it's kind of about being shy. And here it goes. Um, she has a peel like sun-ripened grapes, hang high upon the vine. So sits the shriveled razor, and conquered left behind. They all must gape at the luscious grape, for she is a sight of splendor. Still the raisin sat to ponder that of days she wished not remember. The gleam, the glow, the gleam, the glow, we all should know, in every color and every dream, is tainted more, an unsettled score, by the grapes that steal the scene. In that hidden well, in shadow fell, sits raisin, nothing more. No gleam, no glow, no fancy show, no gaping eyes upon her. So still she waits, consumed by fate, for one who will look to find her. And they will know, an enticing blow, that the gallant grapes are sour, and where the sweetness lies within the eyes of raisin's silent power. That was the first thing that I ever, I think, the first thing that I wrote. And that was the first thing that I shared with Walking English. Is the first thing I posted on here. And my friend Steve looked at me, and that was like the first time that anyone has ever like looked at me and been like, oh my god, that was really amazing. Um, and it, and I and I believed him. Um, and I didn't really ever think of somebody like thinking anything of something that I was writing because I had to do it. Um, um, and it was he really gave me he made me think of myself. He he made me kind of think of myself in a different way. and I got a lot of healing work done out of just writing and sharing it with these people and having them be like, every once in a while they just like be like, oh my god, that was amazing, and I never had really ever had that kind of response from something that I had something that was a feeling. It was like I was sharing my feelings, and they were like, "Your feelings are amazing," and I love them, and I want to hear them. So, um, um, so that was that. Um, there are so many good pieces of work, and all those people that I met that I love very dearly. They're all very troubled people. Um, they're all very beautiful people. Um, Most of them were alcoholics, and they're all in 4 years' time. They're all very 5 years' time. They're all very different people. Well, they're still the same people. They write all the time, but it's amazing what 4 years can do to people. Um, I'm trying to find another one to read to you. Let's see this one. Hey Duncan, it's not gonna happen. So you can sit there and like beg via little tiny words on a screen until you're blue in the fingertips. It's not gonna happen. That's not what this segment is about. And how do you even know I'm really a woman? I could be a man. It's amazing what technology can do these days. Um, this is a poem that I really like. That I wrote. I don't really like most of what I write. Um, I really like most of what I write. Um, I like some things, but like I said, I don't really do it to have people like it. I do it because it's something that I need to do, something that I need to get out of me. And this is a way that I do it. This one's called One Waking Moment, and I have always had problems sleeping ever since I was a little kid. I remember being um, like fourth and fifth grade and having to get up to go to grammar school, and being awake, like going to bed, at 8 o'clock at night, and just being awake for hours and hours and hours and hours. Some mornings I'd be awake and I'd hear the birds come up, and I'd be like, I'd know I was fucked. But so I have to listen to classical music station to fall asleep when I was a little kid. If I didn't, then I wouldn't sleep. And but so sleeping is always kind of I'm a little sensitive these days, people say I get kind of defensive if people talk about how much you sleep, because I've had years of not sleeping, and I'll have weeks of not sleeping. So some some uh, sometimes sometimes I sleep, and when I do, I'm really grateful for it. So this poem is called One Waking Moment, and I kind of wrote this about meeting all of these new people that I was sharing this experience with and writing. I'm just kind of falling in love with that. Okay, here it goes. This house is cold and I'm frozen to it, 2 steps away from out the door. And I've finally found something worth the world and the words and all the moments within the hours and other increments of time. But I have an oblivious habit of stumbling straight onto the tracks, resting my head on its shoulders and running the train off its path. This house is definitely an icebox, preserving all within. And I'd like to peek behind those doors, run away with the cat, and a bottle of thick red sin. Shout at the sun for waking me up, and the heat rain that makes me dance, and the peace and the stinging toes of the snow, and the part of the flame that's blue, making me wonder how blue can warm anything at all, and the trees that whisper seduction, until my legs throw me up, whether I want to or not, to hide at the top and see all through a mess of green and growth, and the wind that rustles a butterfly loose of a long enough land, and the pride of a mountain as it steps onto your path, and the little rivers delicately carving through them, always on their way to ending their pilgrimage in Great Mother Ocean. That fucking ocean, tossing and turning and playing with you until she swallows you whole or gently rolls you back onto the land. And the sand that sticks around all over everything for days and weeks and months, till Grimm eventually pours it over your dead head. And the music that's strong and will forever live on, and the children and the stars and the moon. And the moon that smiles and won't let me sleep. So if you can see through this wonderful haze of distant disaster for sure, grab yourself in a smoke, hold on tight, 'cause this ticket never expires, and you bought one at the door, boarded the train heading for chaos, stowed luggage and all, and somewhere down the line there's a girl making love to the tracks and the trees, 'cause the moon is out along with the wind and she can't even think about sleep. And there's a chance she could wreck the train, or just hop on, heading homeward instead. Yeah. I'm not even paying attention to Duncan, you guys, so you don't even pay attention to him. He's boring. Let's see. Native, you're funny. Let's see what else we got. I'm not only going to read my stuff too, I'm going to read my friend's stuff. I just can access mine a lot easier. They're really, really amazing writers, and I would love to share them with you. I like this one. I wrote it about my cats. This is kind of me just like writing to myself. It's not even really a poem. Um, can you hear me clicking? You listening to my click? I always forget that you can do that. Pussy. Oh god, it's sketchy. Look at that. Okay, this one I wrote to my cats. This is when I had 4 cats, and I think this is funny because this one's for you, Percy. Because cats apparently cause mass genocide in art. They're killing art by thousands. Cats, babies, old couples that are still together, all killing art. Really should be more aware of it. Okay. I tend to linger in the mind-numbing silence of 3 a.m. and the fact that I think that my cats understand me better than any human ever will. It's hard to figure out what comes next when you can't even locate the pack of cigarettes you just had in your hand. And as you're drowned in someone else's insanity flaring across the screen, you wonder if it's possible that somewhere down the road it'll all fall into place. I have come to one conclusion. No matter how out of control your world spins, the music always plays. So there is hope, and my head doesn't feel so heavy. That's a little note I wrote to myself. I don't know if I'm going to read this one or not, but I guess I could read this. Might as well. I just don't know. I don't care. I'm doing it for me. The man that I mentioned earlier that I lived with for 5 years wasn't always, but he wound up being heavily addicted to Oxycontins. And that's, I kind of watched him as a person fade away right in front of me. And I was young and I didn't know what to do. I couldn't really do anything, I guess. Hopefully you get that. But this is a kind of a really sad one. It's sad for me. When he went, after we'd broken up, he went to rehab. Yeah, I'll turn up the audio again, sorry. I just talk really low. After we broke up, he went to rehab, and like I had asked him many times to go. And the thing about junkies is that you can't really you can't trust them. And they may have the sweetest intentions inside and the sweetest hearts, but all I know is that the person that I met and fell in love with wasn't the person who was standing in front of me anymore. And I would have married him. But yeah, so he was addicted to Oxycontins, and when he finally went to rehab, he sent me letters. He would send me letters, and at first my mother wasn't even going to give them to me because, well, I don't know, because I guess she was always trying to protect me. But obviously, you know, she gave me the letters, and I didn't open them for a really long time. And then I guess a couple weeks later, I opened the first one, and it's interesting because you're not supposed to. Or one of the things about going to rehab is that you're not supposed to have contact with the people who were a part of your life as a drug addict. And he was a drug addict, and I was part of his life. We lived together. Just for the record, I have never once even thought that it would be awesome to try Oxycontins. I have a natural. I don't do any kind of painkillers. I don't need any kind of painkillers. I'll wind up puking everywhere if I do. Pretty much. So that's not just why. Just I've seen this drug destroy so many people before. It's basically synthetic heroin, and it's super highly addictive. But I just never wanted to have. Never even. There's some things that I never wanted to even try. Never had. Never will. But I think that when I wrote this, I was a little bit. I was kind of. I guess I was angry, and I guess I was sad. I don't think I was too angry. I think that I was more sad for him than anything else. And it, you know, it was quite something else too, because in my small town, and it's funny because I'm starting to realize just by being here that the town that I grew up in, the community that I grew up spent most of my years with, is very small as well, and everybody knows everybody else's business. Yeah, so after I moved back home and got these letters, it was hard, you know, because like everybody eventually knew about what I was going through, and you know, they'd always seen us together before that, and Maddie and Lizzie were quite the couple, and really had nobody really had any idea what was going on, and so they'd ask about Matt after. People would always ask about him, and I never really like had too much of a heart to tell them what was going on. This poem is called New Hope Letters. How do you feel after all the ink and paper you ate, the blue dripping down from the corners of your lips, running down your chin, pooling? How many letters will it take? All the time spent upset about the rain, and the shine in your eyes was traded in for a black tar fallen gaze. How people often ask where you are and if you're well. I just stand there with a broken smile, and for you I lie. How long has this hurt? Memories are hard to burn, and all the ashes make such a mess of distant dust and rust. How I hold on to hope that you will find your way, the long-lost face of a friend I had before a brainwashing war. That's a sad poem. Okay. I'm making myself sad. Who, Chad Galactic? I'm good. Hugs are great. I love hugs. I would think that people always need hugs. But I don't necessarily need a hug. Sometimes when I get sad, I don't want people to touch me at all. Oh, you're welcome, Lisa. Oh, Dad, you could give me a hug. You know, it's funny. I was thinking that you're the only person I would take a hug from right now. Oh, thank you. Oh, thank you. Taking us into your home.
Thank you for sharing yourself with us. Love you.
Thank you. I just got, what is a hug? 5 points?
You got 5 points.
I just got 5 points. Steve gives the best hugs. That's Dad. Okay. Let's see. Maybe I'll read something that's not mine for a minute. Just so I don't seem like the only person that ever gets sad. Let's see. Okay, let me pick a person here. I'm gonna read my friend Chris McIntyre. If I can find him. Shit. Sorry, this thing isn't the easiest to navigate. There we go. Chad's not home. Chad's watching a movie with Sissy and Sarah. Okay, this is my friend Chris's latest poem, and I love it. I think it's amazing. Chris, when I met Chris was a very heavy drinker. We would get pretty drunk all the time, and we'd always drink lots and lots and lots of red wine. Sangre de Toro, blood of the bull. And he is a very, very dear friend of mine. We always had a backup bottle of wine in the trunk, and we'd find some it'd usually be like him and our other friend Craig. It'd be usually the three of us. Chris drove a Monte Carlo. I'd ride around in that thing, and written many a poem in the back seat of that car. But Chris writes, the first word is the hardest. It's the name of the poem. Be a first word poet. Compress the whole pimento. A tight little ballong. Wait. Hold on. A tight little ball along with your sketches from memory. Okay, hold on. Let me read this again. It's funny the way that it's set up here. Okay, be a first word poet. Compress the whole poem into a tight little ball along with your sketches from memory, a microphone cord, a ukulele, the cat's eye nebula, and the clang of a free game of pinball. Also, your last letter home, the heart. The Heart Sutra, an awkward hand job, Kansas at sunup, buying a girl a shot of Southern Comfort, rusted batteries, eating through an old camera, and the smell of Atlantic City. Squeeze all those things into the first word of your poem, because it's infinite. Because it's infinite, and everything else is emptiness. Sorry, that was a pretty poor read. All the words are compressed. So for instance, ball along, 2 words, ball and along, they're all in one word. And sketches from is also written as one word. So it's kind of hard to read. Let's see what else Chris has to say. Yeah, there are no spaces. One of the other things that was so funny and quirky and amazing about this group of people that I wound up loving very dearly is that we were all obsessed with karaoke. I met Chris and Steve at a karaoke bar. Amy introduced them to me at a karaoke bar, and I never sang karaoke that night. Billy knows, Mac the Knife. It got to the point where we were all pretty much addicts of karaoke. We would go at least 3 times a week, and we would drive. I've driven an hour and a half, 2 hours down south to sing karaoke after work with a cat in the car. But yeah, it's pretty fun. Okay, let's go and do another one. All the ones that I've been reading to you that are mine are really old. From probably from 16 until until 20, 21. So whatever they're 10 to 6 years old. But maybe I'll read a new one of mine. Well, the last one that I posted was very sad because it was about my friend Chad passing away. I like this one. I'm gonna read this one. I think it's funny. It's kind of more of a little bit of an essay than anything. But I think it's funny. In all honesty, I hate most of what I write. It got worse when a fellow writer friend started introducing me as a writer. She's an incredible poet, he'd tell a room full of lawyers, CEOs, agents, and genius programmers. I was uncomfortable. And it was uncomfortable at first. And if I were a blusher, I'd be an overripe tomato, one that's starting to split. Eventually, I got used to the way it rolled awkwardly off my tongue. I'd say it as if it were a secret I'd been keeping my entire life, heavy and relieved to let it go. Or like a question I'd ask, I'm a writer? I'm not a writer. I didn't really ever and don't want to be. I want to record stuff and play it back. Just hit a button and capture it all. It's much more exciting and honest that way, because nothing's tainted by one sole perspective. There you are, that's you. No way around it. As a writer, I can make you out to be whoever I see you as. Everyone is a shade of gray. When you claim to be a writer, you can pretty much be as fucked up as you want to be. It's a free pass for folks to excuse your insanities, absurd behavior, and even your addictions. God knows a little wine never hurt to help those creative juices flow. And rarely do you ever have to prove yourself. You could literally write shit on a cocktail napkin, throw down some random observation and a fistful of flowery adjectives, and none the wiser would contest your claim. They may think you're a shitty writer. You're still a shitty writer. People ask me what I do, which everyone always wants to know from anyone else when you're out in the scene making small talk by asking generic loaded questions. Another being, how have you been? I still say I'm a writer. It's much more acceptable than divulging what really pays the rent. I also don't let on that maybe I haven't left my house for more than a few hours in the past week, and that I'd rather be in bed writing than out making glittery conversation with people who I can assure you will never read a lick of this. I think that's funny. I was kind of salty when I wrote that. I'm not at anyone in particular, just feeling I don't know, salty. You know, let me see if I can read this one. I really like this one because it says a lot about like my idea of home and community, but I just don't know if I can read it on here. Yeah, I'm just, for safety's sake, I'm not gonna read that, even though it's really beautiful. If you want to see a good picture of like how I feel home should be, and just not how I feel home should be, but what makes me feel good and makes me feel home is you can read something I wrote called Flirting and Agriculture on the West Coast, or How to Keep Warm Throughout the Trim Season. You can read that. I'm not going to read it on here though. That one's a long one. Let's see. I think there's a good one in here. Hold on. I'm trying to find. Oh, here we go. I don't know how I feel about some of this. I really like how it started, and it feels more like a song than anything else. I don't know what this is, but again, it's about not really being able to sleep, and kind of just some things, it's just whatever. And it's called Bedtime Story. Once she came down from the ceiling, hair frayed at the ends, and her eyes spinning and reeling, fingers bleeding from the tips. She said she had been talking to strangers, that they had promised her a secret to keep. An addict of adrenaline and danger, she ignored the dark circles of sleep, and battled the night like the man in the moon quarreling with Wolverine. She sprang into step as she fell into bed, like a feather light on her feet, teaching fine threads of dreaming strings how to weave lucidly, while humming ambient melody with her toes tapping out the beat. She would sing. Sleep as a stranger I met down a dark alley, a bottle of wine clenched in his fist, swallowing Z's, hoping to catch a glimpse of black backdrop eyelids, and once you're there, waking can be much harder than you think. Nemo needs you now, you're on your own, sweet dreamer. There's stars enough out there for all, still you stay locked in your bedchamber, tangled in a sheep's disguise, sweating out your sanity. The night the Sandman stole your eyes, flip wakes you more in reality. Nobody wants a nightmare to be helpless in their own head, pinned down and paralyzed with feet of lead. You could run to nowhere's end and never have left. And sleep is a beggar I met down a dark alley, a backhanded bet and a coin flip, an albatross and a thought loss, the dream you dream, you'd forget. And the ceiling is higher than you recall, and the lights won't turn on or off. You're just running from yourself, just to wake up to yourself. So make the most of what you can get. That one's kind of about sleep paralysis. It's kind of got this sleep paralysis is really weird, and lots of people think that it happens to more people than you would ever think. But it's basically you're like asleep and you're dreaming. It's kind of like an out-of-body experience where you can like see the room that you're in, and like you can almost see yourself, but the dream is going on and you can't wake up, and you could be like sitting there screaming and trying to like wake yourself up, and it kind of feels like you're being crushed the whole entire time, like somebody's restraining you in some way. It's kind of really scary. It's only ever happened to me 3 times, but it happens to a lot. It happens to people frequently sometimes, which is really scary. Hi, I posted this. I don't know if you're like a lucid dreamer or not, or if you're pretty aware of like your dreams on a regular basis. But one of the nights that I got it was pretty recent. Um, cool, yeah, me too. Um, we were just in New Orleans, and I got it. I got a really bad one. It was a really petrifying dream, and I actually felt like I was in danger, like in the dream, and like like very bad. And usually I can wake myself up out of dreams or just be like, oh, I'm over this nightmare. Like, let's start dreaming something else, or like I realize that the dream isn't going the way I want it to go, so I just start like changing things around in it. But not when this like sleep paralysis thing happens. That it's you don't have control, which is like one of the scariest things about it for me. But I sat there in this dream, and I was trying to wake myself up, um, and I was trying to uh, call out to the person who was next to me, and I was trying to, like, I can remember really trying to like move my arm and to the table next to me and like knock stuff off of it to like wake me up or to get their attention or something. I was very like really trying to wake myself up. And then I decided that and then I realized like what was going on and that I wasn't going to be able to wake up and that I was like having this sleep paralysis thing and I was just being crushed. And I decided to what I did was I like in my dream or whatever I there's something that was threatening me the whole entire time during this dream. That's why I was trying to wake myself up. It was like this really threatening force that was there. Um, but what I did was I surrounded. I mean, this may seem tacky or something, but it um, it really helped. Really helped me. Um, but I surrounded. I envisioned this white like light, this force field of like positive energy, and I put it around me in my dream or whatever. I just put it around me. So my dream was me in bed pretty much. But yeah, I just put this like white light of like positive around me, and I put it up as like a shield. And that it was really interesting because once I did that, I it was so strange because like the thing that had been quote unquote attacking me this whole time, once I had done that, it was almost like it was bouncing off like a shield, like it couldn't get in, and it was wild because the pressure that I felt got more like almost more intense when like whatever this thing was is like coming at me and like bouncing off my shield of white light. It just kind of it got way more intense until eventually I wound up waking up. Um, but uh, but yeah, that putting that like barrier up has helped me with that. Um, that one time, um, because any time that I've ever had the sleep paralysis thing, I've realized that I realize that I'm having it and that it's going on. That's one of the most frustrating parts about it is that I can't do anything about it. Um, so I'm learning new tricks. Each time that it's happened, I've learned a new trick um, to kind of um, uh, find a different creative way out of whatever it is that's going on. But the part that got more intense, I posted this, was the pressure that I felt, not the attacking entity. It was the feeling of being squashed. that got more intense. Oh, I really like this one. I wrote this. I went to New York not too long ago and met up with a friend of mine that my friend Steve, and I call him the juicer. But he's also he's the poet friend that I was telling you about. And he is like Cassidy. He really is. He used to drink a lot. He doesn't drink anymore. He got himself into a very silly situation where he really had to step back and look at himself and say, you know what? I'm going to go to rehab and not drink anymore. And he's kind of a funny person because while he was in rehab, he's really, really smart. He's religion and a psychology major. And he, the whole time he was going to AA. He's like, oh, it's I'm like, how is that for you, Steve? And he's like, well, it's it really works for some people. He's like, it's really just a load of bullshit. But it really helps some people. I think Steve is the kind of person who has always done things just for the experience of it, and not so much because he has to or because somebody wants him to. He's just done things to be like, oh, well, okay, so that's what that was like. And I think that going to AA was kind of like that in a way for him. But yeah, no, I met up with him, and he was doing something that was very interesting. And I was going to see Big Light and Rotary Downs at the Hollywood Bowl, and it was monsooning outside, like absolutely torrential downpours. We were going to take the ferry over, and they shut down all the ferries because the water was just like so high. It was sloshing over um, onto onto the island. So we didn't take a ferry. I think we wound up taking a train into the city. But Steve was going there to do an ayahuasca ceremony. And this is very interesting. And this is another example of something that Steve would just do. Personally, I would not want to necessarily partake in an ayahuasca ceremony that is held in the Bronx in a yoga studio. I'm good. That is not where I want to be, really. But I think that he really just wanted to have that experience and have it in that setting, because it makes a great story. So, and it was super interesting because it was very kind of cultish. It was a secret. They gave you a secret location. There's and you had to go at a certain time, and uh, it gets weirder. I don't really. I went looking for him the next day after that because it had taken, it's an overnight thing, and I went to the yoga studio and I waited outside, and it was in like this office building. This yoga studio is in this office building, and it's on like a third floor. I don't even know how I really figured all of this out. So it was a little detective work on my part, but I waited for a couple to like go into the building. I followed in like right after them, and I just like I think I just read stuff. I think that all that I had was the name and my iPhone, the name of the yoga studio and my iPhone, and so so I googled it, found the address, waited outside, and wound up going up to the yoga studio and asking people when I got there, and I said, you know, my friend Steve and I were going back across to New Jersey together that day, and it was rainy, and I had a strange night the night before, and I was you know we just needed to meet back up, and it was I knew that it would kind of be hard to get in touch with him afterwards, after his thing. So I went up to this yoga studio and I asked them, you know, very politely, I'm like, well, a very dear friend of mine was doing the ceremony that you had held here last night, and I'm just wondering if it is let out yet, because I need to get in touch with him. He's my ride back to New Jersey, and the first girl that I asked looked at me, said, "Okay, yeah, hold on, let me just get you somebody." And she went and got this woman, and this other woman came over, and I told her the same exact thing, and she she looked at me. And she said, "No, nothing like that is going on here." So it was this whole like super secret, like underground, weird ayahuasca ceremony in fucking Bronx or something. It was weird. They're all very secretive about it. I just waited in a cafe until I heard from Steve, which wound up being like hours later, but whatever. Don't feel weird. But anyway, so this this poem is about, this poem is about that night, and I like it. I have this thing that I say with Steve. Steve and I have a funny relationship where um, I, it's kind of hard to explain. We're very much we love each other very much, and um, we've never had like any form of relationship other than this strange. Um, it's like a romantic, historical type of thing. I guess it's just kind of like poetry or like art. Um, but he's always really respected me as a person, and I respect him a lot. And I just kind of like, he lives his life and I live my life, and he is crazy and I am crazy. And sometimes we're crazy about each other, and sometimes we drive each other crazy. But I think that one of the things I love about being Steve's friend is that I love just being able to just literally like look him in the face and call him out, like, and call myself out. I know that I've called myself out to him and like in front of him so many times. And I'll be like trying to get him to like come with me or come hang out with me, and I'll be like saying something or being crazy, and he'll look at me and he'll be like, Liz, what is this all for? What is this all really about? And I'll just say something like, well, I really just want you to pay attention to me. But I know I speak very bluntly to each other, and one of the things that we've always kind of it's funny is that we always end up hanging out in cars. We're either he and I are either always like in big groups of people together, or we're driving somewhere. No, we haven't, and I love that about that. Oh, sex in cars. But anyway, no, he's always driving. He drives a Cadillac, an old one, and his car was called Midnight Smooth. You know, it was a dark blue. I want to say, I don't know what year, maybe like 76, dark blue boat of a car. And bench seats, and I would always be the passenger, and he was always the driver, and that's like the consistency of our friendship. That we'd only, when it would be just me and him, we'd only be hanging out in cars, driving somewhere. And I think the last time that I saw him, I brought that little fact up to him because I noticed that, you know, Steve, like, why is it that you and I only hang out in cars? You know, like, we're really amazing friends, and all we ever do is hang out in cars. And he kind of looked at me and said, well, Liz, where else is there to hang out? And so we just, we kind of have this car thing. Where else do you want to hang out? I don't know. Anyway, so this is this poem. We were higher than we've ever been, counting time with cigarettes. The stars are just reflections, your smile burning embers, dying fires, simple pleasures, another day you won't remember. Motels with high ceilings, kissing while we're sleeping, the weather outside teeming, we might have all been dreaming. Another bridge, a flooded street, caught off guard, don't claim defeat. We could drown here on this island if you can't find a way off of it. Anyway, I'd be just fine with that. The Parkway, turnpike leaving, elevators, trains, revolving doors in. New York City, saintly wisdom, graffiti bumps and kingpins, sneaking into buildings, singing, smiling, let me down again. Get me out of here, let me out of here. I just want to be back in your passenger seat. That's about how much I wanted to get out of New York City that day. I had had like a rough night the night before, and just needed to get out of New York City very badly. Cars are very like a womb-like in a way. I spend a lot of my time now in cars. Yeah, I love being in a car. I don't have my own car right now, but if I did, I think that that was another thing about well, I just realized that this thing is called Seminar on Sadness. Which one of you dorky boys wrote that? Well, I want to get to name my things. Seminar on Sadness sounds so like sounds like your therapist talking to you or something. um, what's up with me and cars? I like them. I like boys who work on cars too. I don't know how to do that, Percy. So sad. Whatever. Oh God. Oh, okay. I want to read to you a dream that I had. This is about my cat and how she kills art every day. My dad and I can talk poetry tomorrow if he wants. Alright, this is a dream I have. And it's just a little poem about a dream that I had. It doesn't say anything. Well, maybe it does. I don't know. Whatever. I just really like it because it was just such a vivid dream. It's called Slipping In and Out. Ooh. Just had it. That's what she said. He should have said moment in my own head, and I'm not too stoked on that. The kitten laid on my chest as I held my breath, floating on my back in a blue pool of water, wearing an old pilot's cap with goggles on top, the kind made of soft brown leather, the kind Amelia wore before we lost her. He spoke calmly to me about being set free, while I tried to keep our heads from going under, as someone was preaching while synchronized swimming about the sufferers of dreaming, the lonesome and weary. But all had lost meaning with the alarm and its ringing. We woke and lost each other. God, um, I read a lot about sleeping or not sleeping. Okay, um, I really like this poem. This is actually my friend Thumpy's. He really likes this poem, which is neat to me because John is such a colorful, positive, seemingly always on top of his game kind of guy. Quirky and funny and whatever. And it took me by surprise, I think. When he bought our book. We have a book. You can actually buy a book, and it's called The Idiom. You buy it on Amazon. My friend Mark publishes it. But Thumpy bought the book and I guess read this and just told me that he really liked it, and I really like it too. So talking about that kind of sadness, and so I've always gone into these periods where, like I said, I get sad, and I don't really want anyone to talk to me, and I don't want to like be touched even. I don't like want like don't even touch me. Like, don't pat me on the shoulder. Um, and when I was younger, it would be longer periods of time. But as I get older, I learn how to just be okay with being sad when I'm sad, and dealing with what makes me sad, and acknowledging that, and being able to like move on from it a lot faster than I used to. So those months where I wouldn't want to leave the house turned into month, turned into week, turned into a day. And so one of the things that I always kind of happens to me is that when I am that low, I always seem to have like these angels that come, and I feel like angels anyway, but they are just like regular people, and just this like one beautiful moment that happens. It kind of takes me like out of my sadness and puts me into like a different like sadness, or just shows me like something that's so beautiful, that in a weird way makes everything like okay again. I remember this one time I was riding the the BART, and I was on this like weird I was just I was sad, and I can't really remember like what was going on in my life at that time, but I was basically like holding back tears on the BART, and I got off I wound up like missing my stop and having to get off of the BART at a different station at the station afterwards, and I stepped off the BART like through the open doors, and there was this old man, kind of like seemed like a homeless guy, in a wheelchair, and he was selling. He looked at me, and he asked me if I wanted to buy a pencil, and he had all these like stubs of pencils and pens and stuff, and I wouldn't want to talk to anyone. It wasn't like I didn't want to talk to him. I just didn't want to talk to anyone. So I was kind of like shying away, and like and he just kept talking to me, and what are you saying, Nathan? Oh, yes, sure. Okay, so anyway, so yeah, he just kept talking to me, and he's talking about how I didn't buy a pencil, and then I think he just gave me a pen. I think that he looked at me and he said, no, you know what you need? You need this pen. This pen is really special, and um, and he he pulled out this pen, and he started talking about like the ink in the pen and how like the quality of the pen, and I was like, he's giving me this pen, and like in the back of my head I'm still like, like I can't give him any money, like I don't have any money to give him, and I really didn't. I probably was only using my credit card and didn't have any money on me. And it was probably one of the times in my life where I was really had not a cent to give on myself. And he handed me this pen, and I was like, well, sir, like, I'm sorry, like, I can't take this from you. I can't give you anything for this pen. And he was like, no, 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 you have that pen. You need that pen. You'll use that pen well. And I just, like, looked at this man, and there was just something just so amazing about him and the person that he was, and the person that I was being. And like like I had to not get on the next train because I was crying so much. But it was a good cry. It wasn't like despair cry or anything or hopeless. It wasn't a sad cry. It was just like this, like cry because you have to cry. And I was in love with that man. Like I wanted to like to, to just like follow him around or something. It was just amazing. He was like a little strange angel. Um, um, so this poem is called My Angels, and those types of things happen to me often when I'm feeling sad, and maybe it's just because I don't notice that, or maybe it's because I notice them that way, but I really think that in a strange way, um, they're my angels. So my angels. When I am low, bottom of the trough, dirt in my lungs, rotting like neglected fruit. When I am so low, only earthworms and anglers greet me in the morning. That never really comes anyway, for I sleep through it, because the cold and the pain really permeate my profuse dreaming. So low, a smile is a burden. When I am that low, angels come to me without warning and wake me, lighting my heart and lifting me up. They never say or do much, or present themselves as such. They leave as abruptly as they appear. They are discreet, and I have yet to encounter one wearing white. They sure do fucking shine, and it's always undeniable that I've been touched, looked after, by the renewed hope in my heart and the tears washing the dirt from my face. My angels are cab drivers of all ethnicities, overflowing with wisdom, and drifters crippled, bearing honesty and kindness in its purest. My angels are quick and beautiful, and when I am low, they change my life every time. Am I the type of person that needs attention? Somebody asked. Sometimes I need attention. Sometimes I don't want anything to do with anyone, and I don't want anyone to see me. Do I have any cheerful poems? What didn't you find cheerful about that poem? See, it's really interesting. that you're saying this to me right now. Because one of my exes used to say the same thing to me. When I showed him, when I opened him up to my world and I let him in on my writing, I started by showing him the poem that I wrote him, and then I introduced him to this site, to walkingenglish.com, which is kind of like our little safe haven, and it's my creative nest, and he I don't think he got it. I don't think that he what was the site called again? Walking English. But I don't think that my boyfriend did not get that. That's the exact same thing he said. He said, you know, your poems are all so sad and depressed, and you're not the person that I thought I knew, and you're not the person who you seem to be, and you know, do you have anything, you know, that's cheerful? And I don't know, you seem to be such a, you know, you're such a smiley, happy, laughy girl, and all this stuff you write is really sad and depressing, and I don't think that, other than me stating in the beginning of that poem that I get sad, I don't think that there was anything sad about that poem. I think that that poem is beautiful. And I'll see, gosh, here, let's see. I mean, I don't know, like, do you have a poem? I like to hear, maybe what your idea of, a cheerful poem is. Because I find, that, I find a lot of, light in a lot of what I write, but, that's just because I know where it's coming from, and I know what it took to get there. Here's a cheerful poem. Okay, here's a cheerful poem. Today I tied a red piece of flowery fabric around my neck. It made me at one point feel like a kitten, and I wanted to play with everything. There is a cheerful poem. Yes, I wrote that. Um, this is kind of funny. This is I wrote this piece, and then my friend Amy, who people call me Liz Bunny, but Bunny comes from the March Hare, and the March Hare is the March Hare, and that's what I am. I'm the March Hare, and my friend Amy is the Mad Hatter. And we would, Amy writes on Walking English as well. She writes under Apotheosis, and we would often write back and forth to each other in forms of like little poems and stuff. Gosh, I don't know why my nose is so itchy. I think it's all a bunny fur up my nose. But this is something that we kind of wrote together, and I wrote this one piece of this poem, and I read it to her, and she kind of like built this thing around it a little bit, because she had been writing something to me. This is called Correspondence Between Hatter and Hare. Dear Lily on the couch, can I tell you that this is Amy. Amy starts off. Dear Lily on the couch, can I tell you of adventure and heartbreak, the Greyhound bus to history, and the things that I have done? Or shall I simply say that I have missed you so much, and that someone called you tragic, and that I told that someone you were just a poet? Apotheosis. Dear Apotheosis in my mind, this is me now writing to Amy. Tell that fool we are tomorrow's eternal slap in the face. We are for its restless seekers, a soda pop rock generation. We are would-be's and rusty earthquakes and reality romance novels and unbuttoned cufflinks and running with scissors, fraying ends upon ends upon ends. This is this and now, and we are all waiting in between the lines of immortality and decomposition. And this is a wicked kind of love and an adoring hate, and for every stone thrown in the crowd, someone goes down enlightened. And this is walking, 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 running in a circle, and these are electric mornings and brush fire burnings that we light our souls off of, and we smoke each other's dreams and watch them slowly form the clouds. And we are collectively, step by step, painting every barren wall with light. We write in ink, we write in pen, we are infinite, we are something in this nothing, we are for the ones to come. And if that's tragic, well, I'm just fine with it. Lily on the couch. Dear Lily should be sleeping. If I were to tell that fool a thing, and I won't be, I would tell him just that. But really, I should just have told you that I miss you, and that I have a check for you, and that I love you, and I think I might still be a poet after all. Apotheosis, day job and danger. Dear Apotheosis, slightly burping. It's 4:26 in the morning, and I'll be west again by 11 a.m. Unfortunately, without you with me, because you see I've discovered the perfect remedy for tragedies like you and me. And then Amy interjects with beer, and I counter-interject with, no, silly. No amount of alcohol or mercury could save you from the poetry. Sleep deprivation, no, that's the key. And even that can't save you from your own sanity. Lily Freely. And Amy writes, Dear Lily, nothing else. Call a cab. Apotheosis, nothing else. Dear Victory Cab, come pick me up. I've got another train to hop. Apotheosis is too drunk. Thank God she's still a poet. Lily. That one may read better if you read it yourselves. And my name's Lily on Walking English. And like I said, I hit most of what I write. and I'm not dead yet. This is a really pretty poem. I think it's really pretty imagery. This is just like it's kind of just like a picture that I painted, and it was about when it was about the time that I first met Chad Galactic. What is the site about? The site is not about anything. It's about people who write poems and post them on there. And it's not open forum. You have to have an invite to post on Walking English, but it is open forum style. Well, then if you want, I posted this. You can send me an email with some of your stuff in it, and I can send you an invite to Walking English. You should email me one. My email address is elizabethemily42@gmail.com. So this poem is about just this picture that I painted in my head when I met Chad, and I really like this poem. I think it's really pretty. It's called Our Lavender Love. I was resident of the Richmond for just about 2 weeks. There I laid down next to you in a bed of lavender sheets, finally feeling after 22 years the comfort that home brings. There I spent lifetimes with you and made lifetimes of love. We laughed and cried and dreamed up more lifetimes. We raised children and watched their children giggle at our silliness. And we grew brittle and closed our eyes and died there in our bed of lavender. And when they took our bodies to burn, they wrapped us in those same sheets, and the whole city smelled of aromatherapy. All was calm and beautiful, and folks stood in the streets outside of their homes with smiles as they breathed in the sweet perfume of our lavender love. I like that. I like painting pictures. That was the fun thing from changing mediums like that from being a painter. I was starting to get really frustrated when I was painting because I couldn't get what I was feeling out onto the canvas. I just couldn't I just didn't know how to do it. And that's when I started writing and just kind of switched over. Was painting pictures with words instead of yeah, I like to sculpt. I would still do that. That's a little bit different though. Sculpting's less emotional. The monkey head. I think that either Dad or Brian has the monkey head. Elizabeth Emily 42, you got it, at Gmail. I really like this poem. God, I don't know why. But so my face is so itchy. I think it's the bunnies. Lest Nathan put scallop juice in my soup. Put scallop juice in my manwich, Nathan. Okay, this is a really ridiculous poem. It's about nothing. It's really ridiculous. And I love it. It's called Other Times. Sometimes I have starlit imprints, quail lips, and fingertips lacing up my boots. Sometimes I am a beltless loop. Sometimes I lust in the direction of melons. Sometimes I sit back and watch uncomfortable situations develop. Sometimes I am woven with precision, inscribed with ridiculousness. Sometimes I am the swinging fist mist. Sometimes I am a scentless, intolerable windmill. Sometimes I fit well. Sometimes I lick the silver lining. Sometimes I dine in ramen. Sometimes I am lightning shivers. Sometimes I am an arrow-filled quiver. Sometimes I am Cuban fleeing oppression in my homeland. Sometimes I reach the void of your hand. Sometimes I am diamond fodder. Sometimes I am sniffing rainwater dripping. Sometimes I am waking to the noonday triangle ringing. Sometimes I'm all alligator and snake dreams and screaming. Sometimes I think clean. Sometimes I'm motion moving through the emotion. Sometimes the wind dreads my hair, or willing. Sometimes I'm lichen clinging. Sometimes I'm a vixen smitten on galactic residue. Sometimes I'm not home. Sometimes I'm talking long after the dial tone. Sometimes I am coughing fat chunks of soul into a tissue. Sometimes it's just last night's attempt to justify. Sometimes I saddle up and fly. Sometimes I end game. Sometimes I bite back pain. Sometimes I am eggs and bacon. Sometimes I convince myself I like pancakes. And sometimes I make them. Sometimes I turn to you, the mirror. Sometimes I am shattered there. Sometimes I am in the middle of broken bird wings. Sometimes I fix them. Sometimes I wish that. Sometimes I am hollow and full of. Sometimes I'm renegade butterfly love. Sometimes I'm crucified. Sometimes I am the lie. Sometimes I tickle on the inside. Sometimes I write sane. Other times, sometimes I am. Just am. That one takes a long time to read. Let's see, let's read one from Frankie Brownstone. Guess what? What? I really love this poem. This is one by Steve, Frankie Brownstone. You should sit in your car. I like sitting in cars. I really love Steve, and I love Steve for the way he writes, and I love Steve for the way that he sees things. And I love how crazy he is. This is one of his poems. So here's this preacher running youth groups and building skate parks in New Brunswick. I knew from carnival days and sunrise surf sessions. He wandered just too far from the path, found Jesus in the mushrooms, let his hair and beard grow long, forgetting the world. Forgetting the world doesn't like a savior. For the freedom and for the fearlessness, a moral high ground affords. But women always will. And Mary Magdalene stares from across the bar, from above a gin and soda, but that doesn't make his father, the broker, feel any better. And the preacher understands his parents never wanted him to do the right thing. They just wanted to teach him to then get blown off. And the preacher and I catch 4-foot glass A-frames once in a while. I ride a 9'6" single fin long. He rides retro 20 fish. And there is only room for one man and God to pull into the pocket as an orange sun brings the wind.